Welcome to your weekly space of self-indulgence, discovery, and community. I'm your host, Mariah, here to guide you through insights, tips, and stories. Thanks for joining me. Now let's get started. Welcome back to the Self-Indulgent podcast. I'm your host, Mariah, and where have I been? I have been sick, and then my partner has been sick, and then the semester ended. It ended, it's over, I'm done. The papers are in and we have wrapped it up. I am still seeing clients this week and then I am free for like 2 weeks. But yeah, that was things that I was not expecting to wrap up this fall semester for myself, but it's okay. We keep it pushing. Because of these delays and some of the things going on, I am going to shift gears a little bit because I think that I want to be as authentic as possible when talking on the podcast. So my next few episodes are probably not going to be as holiday-esque as I wanted them to be. And because of having to miss some weeks during this like holiday series that I wanted to do, I'm not going to focus as heavily on that. I'm going to try to just be as authentic in the things that I want to talk about as possible, especially as we're wrapping up. However, today's episode I think kind of fits into this theme because it's going to be like my end of year reflections, just things that I think are important overall when it comes to this time of year. I've had some changes in the way that I think about end of year reflections and just kind of wrapping up everything that's happened, where we're at now. A lot has happened this year. I think that year 2023, there was a lot of ups and downs. Of course there was. And with that being said, it's forcing me to recognize this year that, one, there are always going to be changes. Obviously, we all know that. Nothing that I'm going to say in this moment is new. I think I just have different perspectives on it and how I relate to it. You know, I've been grappling with this idea of like life is hard, right? Like there are going to be things that come in life that are challenging. And I have mixed feelings about it. I think because when you've been to really low lows, like I've been at some really low lows, like extremely low lows. I think when you reach points like that in life, you fear the challenge and the bumps that life inevitably is going to bring you. You can't hide from them. You can't change them. You can't take them away. There are going to be those bumps, trials, and tribulations. When you're in a place where you've gotten to a really low point, that's scary. To realize and say that, hey, things are going to be difficult is scary. That, hey, you know, you're not gonna be happy forever. Like things are not always gonna go as planned. Like that's scary. I don't want to be at a low place like that again. How do I know that this bump, trial, or tribulation is not gonna send me to that super dark, low place? I don't want to go there. I had my stay. I'm good. I'm checked out. I did my dues. I paid my time. I don't want to go back. I've had a hard time, even though like you guys have heard me say that in this summer, I, really got connected with myself and I felt like I transitioned to this new phase, like this evolved version of myself. And it felt great at the time, but also in all the things that I was reading as I was trying to get in touch with like my spirituality and like who I am as a person and just the way I see the world, I also was getting the messages of, through things I was reading, things I was seeing on social media, just the constant message of life is hard. There's always something. There's always going to be an predictable bump and a challenge. I had a hard time coming to terms with that because of how like aligned I was feeling at the time, how centered I was feeling. I had just got out of an extremely low low. I started 2023 with really poor mental health. Like really, like this time last year, when I say I was fighting to be better for the spring of 2023, I was fighting because the fall of 2022 was rough. So in December, when I had a break from school, I was doing everything I could to feel better. And it started with smaller things. Like I started watching YouTube videos and I started vlogging and picking up a hobby. Like that's kind of where that lied. I read a book for the first time for fun fiction, and that was great. And it helped me kind of get back into my body, if that makes sense. Like it helped me feel human. It helped me feel human again. It helped me feel like, hey, like I can play and do new things and just explore again. That's what happened this time last year. But it wasn't enough. That wasn't enough. Before I got into the next semester, it was still low. I was still super low. You know, once the semester started again, it was bam, 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 bam. Horrible habits I had. It was lots of dissociation to make it through to April and May. At that time, I remember I got to a point where like I had to go to my advisor because I was just like, I can't keep doing this. Like I'm not going to make it through. This is not okay, to try to look for some support, which was great. She was very helpful, definitely steered me in the right direction. And so I spent a lot of time over the summer trying to figure out, who am I? What do I want? How do I find peace within myself? Like, how can I find peace within myself? Because I'm not going to get it anywhere else. Clearly, I'm not going to get it through mindless eating, emotional eating. I'm not going to get it through my partner. I'm not going to get it from my friends. I'm damn sure not going to get it in this godforsaken program. My family can't give it to me. So I need to find the peace for myself. So yes, we all know I went through this long journey in the summer and I was like, oh, I'm so good. Ugh, life, I get it. But I still couldn't get through this whole idea of more bumps. I've made it over a huge one. And what makes you think I want to go back down a valley? Why would I want to go back down? Why? Why would I want to do that? Why, you ask? Growth, change, and evolution. I am working on coming to terms with the highs and lows of life. And with all the great things that I achieved over the summer and the high that I had, I was just smacked in the face with another low about a week or so ago. And so, which is going to completely change things for me over the next few years. I really had to think, like, I got to a point where I was like, yo, why is there a problem every winter? Every winter over the last, I can't count how many years. It's like December comes and I'm no longer God's favorite. I am no longer favored by the universe. I don't know what it is. I got to look into I don't know. And so it happened again and I lost it. I absolutely lost it. And it still comes in waves because now I have to deal with these repercussions of some things that have happened that I'll probably talk more about later on. I just am not in a place to do so. It's like I went through this whole time over the summer of like, yes, change is good. We have to grow. We can't control everything. We can find peace in that. And then the universe said, okay, bet. So let's see you put it into action. And so here I am now, having to deal with it. And as I deal with it and get through it, I will share more. It did shake me. It shook what I thought was reality. And what's really crazy about like what's happened and this like thing that completely is changing things for me right now was that me and my partner also got like the best news ever the day before. So it was just like this, like, are you for real? Like, how do I, like this, the best thing possible in this scenario, going for my partner and like us as a whole. And then this like horrible thing, like that I'm going through or how I'm attributing to be horrible and like shocking and just not part of the plan. It was this perfect example. It was literally like I was receiving this like test. Quite literally, because it's so ironic. It's almost comical. It's like, okay, like we're going to test your ability to adapt and change and to be flexible. And that's what I want. I want to be flexible. I want to be adaptable. I want to be able to accept change. It's this lesson that I have to learn. The reason why I think we have such a hard time with coming to terms with this is because of the models and the ideals and expectations that we create for ourselves. Like, whether you think so or not, you have this like idea of who you are and things you will and will not do and your life in your head. And we hold on to that so tightly that anything that comes that goes against that or seems to be challenging that is so uncomfortable. It's disturbing. We would do anything to not feel that way. We will do anything to continue to feel comfortable and to stick to whatever plan we had or whatever ideals we had. This is why growth and change is uncomfortable. This is why people want to stay the way they are. They don't want to make changes. You get the people, oh, you've changed. Like, it's uncomfortable for whatever model they've had about you in their head. I mean, and it makes sense that we have this model or idea of ourselves and our lives in our head, right? Because it can inform how we react, how we respond to things. It can help us make decisions. How do we plan and have goals while also being ready for change and being flexible? How do we do both? How do we not get super wrapped up in these goals and expectations and plans and stay motivated? Like, how do we not get wrapped up in them and continue to push through? Because plans and goals are good. Dreams are good. All these things are great. But how do we not attach and identify so heavily with them at the same time? How do we prepare for change and missteps and mistakes? And I guess the point is that we're really not supposed to prepare. You can't prepare for it. So then how do you accept it? I think this has been the first time in a long time where something has taken me so off guard that I am lost for words. Like, I've been caught so off guard that I'm going through my self-help books like, how do I get through this? How? Are you kidding me? How do I make it out of this? What is happening? Why am I so distraught because now my plans have to change? Why is that? What the hell is going on? Either way, what I'm trying to practice now, this is why it's so important to be present. And as much as I thought I was working on being present and working on and taking the moment for what it is and one thing at a time, I still had these huge expectations of what my life is supposed to look like and how I was supposed to be achieving things. Life lifed. It did something different. This is a major setback for myself. So when contemplating and looking at my year and reflecting on my year, it would be a huge disservice if I said this setback ruined my year. It would be disrespectful to myself and this year's versions of myself to say that, because that's not true. I did a lot this year. When I look at my vision board for 2023 that I made this time last year, I did almost everything on that board. So why would I let this setback or inconvenience throw all of that away? Because in the moment, that's how it felt. I didn't want to think about anything else. It felt like it ruined the year in the moment. And I think this is why it's so important to celebrate your achievements and to reflect on the things that you do, even the small wins, because it can be so easy to get wrapped up in what didn't go right, what went wrong, what didn't go my way, what didn't I accomplish. And I almost stayed there, like I almost went there. But when I really look back at the year, I read a lot more. I finished a lot of books. I got the practicum site that I wanted for school. I journaled and meditated a lot more. I got a personal trainer and have been really consistent the entire year in the gym. And I'm seeing progress and results, and I feel strong. I feel healthy. I stood up for myself a lot more. I found more self-confidence. I started this podcast. And despite the little bumps that came along with it, this was my first go of doing it during a semester, and I missed a few weeks, but that was it. I missed about 2-3 weeks, and the year with 10 episodes. That's pretty impressive, I think, based on when I launched. I can't sit here and say, even though this shook my world, I can't sit here and say that this wasn't a good year. And I almost did. So we have to recognize our achievements along the way so that we can call on them and remember them and just recognize them when things aren't going our way. And with what's happened, I don't really know how I'm feeling. I have very mixed feelings and emotions, and that's okay. I don't think there's a perfect way for me to handle or respond. I think that it's going to just be what it is, and I'm going to feel differently on different days. And that's the truth of it. I am not happy about it. I'm still not happy about it. And I am just going through the most emotions and letting them come and go as they do. And that's all I can do. And so this is why, with all of that being said, I no longer can subscribe to this whole, this is my year. This is going to be my year. I like the idea that when the new year comes, 1, we can reflect on this past year, and 2, we can feel like we have this fresher slate. I think that can feel good, but it's an illusion. 1, you can at any point in the year start off on a clean slate the second you choose to. So I don't even have to say, I'm going to start fresh tomorrow. I can start fresh the second after I say that. And so I do think there's some comfort, though, when the new year does come for you to be like, oh, yes, January 1st. Woo! But I don't think I have to subscribe to that, 1. 2, wow, this year has been a perfect example of I'm going to have wins and losses. I am going to have wins and losses forever. It's always, and I don't have to look at it as losses. I do think there's ways to not take the hits as hard. Like I said, when I was talking before about hitting those really low lows, I think when you've been at that place, there's a fear of going back there, but I think it's very possible not to. I think you can take the hits and them not hit as hard, them not do as much damage, them not shatter you. I think it's very possible to get to that. So that's what I'm going to be working on. However, they're always going to be there. There's always going to be jabs. So for me to sit here and be like, nah, this next year, it ain't happening. I'm going to get it all together so I'm prepared. That's not going to happen. I'm tired of, I don't want to put the pressure on myself of this is my year. I understand the motivating mindset behind it. And also, I don't think it's very helpful to the realities of the ebbs and flows of life. And I want to be very realistic in my expectations of what this next year can look like. So we're going to have to start breaking it up quarterly because it's shocking to see where I was in January of 2023 to where I am now in December of 2023. It's quite shocking. So we have to do quarterly check-ins because so much changes and so much happens. So I got to reflect in these shorter periods of time and maybe think more about, okay, what do I want these next few months to look like for myself? Because we get caught up so fast, so fast. I'm trying really hard to learn at this end of the year that things are going to happen. And the things that I said maybe would never happen or never thought was possible are always possible. And so it's not about figuring out how to avoid something or how to make sure this outcome is not is not going to happen. Or like this idea of like, how can I set myself up so I can be prepared for all things? And it's not about that. It's about accepting where you're at and how you can, and how you're going to move accordingly. When things happen, what can I do for myself? How do I want to show up now? How do I feel about this? Can I sit in how I feel about this? I don't think there's a prescribed way to handle these bumps and these challenges. There isn't. There is no answer on how to approach them. The only thing we can work on is how it impacts us and how long it impacts us. There's different ways that people handle that. I'm in therapy, obviously. But I also just have to go through the motions. Like that's where I'm at right now. I have to go through the motions when the challenges come, and I think I just have to accept it. I have to, unless, if, I can try my best to make a different outcome, but then, I can't fixate on it. I think the only thing you can do is figure out what you need to accept the challenges that are coming ahead, and to know that you can get through it, and being more in tune with what do you need to get through it. What support do you need? What guidance do you need? Who do you need help from? That's all we can do. That's how I'm embracing the journey. Otherwise, I go back to the low, and I don't want to go there. So I'm not going to go there. I will allow the feelings to come as they do and hold space for myself, and also make sure that I'm getting supports that I need and what I need. I'm getting very clear on what I'm upset about, why I'm so upset about it exactly, because of course the event is the event, right? Whatever happens, that's a bump or a challenge. That happens. But what does it mean to you? What does that challenge or that roadblock or unexpected event, how are you relating to it? What does it mean to you? What is it doing to you? You feel this way about it, right? Okay, why? What's underneath that? I think one, that provides a different level of clarity of where you're at and why this thing impacted you so greatly, or why it's so challenging for you. And then you may be able to, that's how you can start to work on it and work through it, is, oh, okay, this is actually really what I'm upset about. This is more so where my discomfort is coming from. This is why it's so devastating to me, because this is what it means. This is what I'm telling myself this is the message that I'm sending myself based on this information. This changes these things for me. That's why this is so devastating. That's why this challenge is so challenging. And so once you have that information, it can be a lot easier to work through it, because, for example, say if you've been going on dates, right? Say you've been dating for 6 months or so to a year, and then you find everybody's like, okay, blah, they're all right. You're not really feeling anybody all this time. And then you finally are feeling someone, and you're like, oh, okay. And it's just like, you're like, wow, this is it. This has to be it, right? This is the feeling I've been waiting for. And then you get ghosted. That can be devastating. You spend all this time dating, whatever, if you're on these apps, whatever the case is, you spend all this time, and then bam, you find somebody, you're like, oh my God, this could be the one. And it's not. And that's devastating. You spent all this time, you thought you finally had something, and then you lose it with no explanation. And you have to deal with that. That could be devastating to somebody. That can be a huge bump. And then they're in bed crying, don't want to leave the bed, super disappointed. I'll never go on a date again. That person should ask themselves, okay, what am I really upset about here? What am I really upset about? And they may figure out or explore and find that I feel like I'm getting older. I feel like I'm losing time. What if I don't ever find anybody? I feel unlovable. I don't get why the person didn't like me. This meant that I don't know myself, or I can't trust myself to judge a situation. I thought we were on the same page. I thought we really hit it off. How am I ever going to know? How am I ever going to know if it's actually the person? I was so wrong about this. Like, see how there's like these layers to it. Wasn't just about somebody ghosting them and feeling disappointed and being ghosted. It was all these other things that led to the devastation and of the challenge and the roadblock. They've already put so much time investing in looking to find somebody, and they finally found a connection after all this times of not feeling anything. And now they're questioning if they're ever going to find anybody, and if they can trust themselves, and what this means for future dates and future connections. Now they're worried that they'll even be able to know if it's the right person, or they'll be able to find, like, there are these other like super far out things that are impacting how deep this is for that person. And with knowing all of that, and like her fears of, say, you know, being able to judge if a date went well or whatever the case is, you know, maybe now, like, when she's ready to go out again, she asks the person at the end of the date, hey, like, how was this for you? Like, at the end of dates, are you interested? Maybe being very just straight up and forthcoming of like, do you see this going somewhere? Do you want to meet again? That can be something that the person works on, because at the end of the day, we're not mind readers. We won't know if somebody actually is enjoying the date unless they tell us. And all you can do is ask. That's all you can do is ask. So if that's something, if, you know, she felt like she had a good time, she, you know, next time can get that information before the ending of the date, so that there's already this open line of communication of like, tell me now. Because in reality, right, we know that the person that ghosted her is a piece of shit. We know that. A piece of shit. Why would you do that in the first place? Right? Like, that's not why you wouldn't want to be with somebody who would do that to somebody else in the first place. So it's likely a blessing in disguise. But in the moment, it's super devastating. It's like earth shattering. At the end of the day, we survive. We can survive. And through this process, she may, you know, be able to build some of that self-confidence again. She could develop her communication skills. I think, you know, we're in a time period where we're just kind of like, we're afraid to ask certain things sometimes because we don't want to be disappointed. And in this time, maybe she learns to be very straightforward, to be able to just say, hey, this is my intention, take it or leave it, and to find some sort of confidence in that. Maybe that's her path and her lesson, but she wouldn't have if this didn't happen. And so that is the everything happens for a reason cliche. And I am somebody who's always believed in that. It has gotten harder to believe it over the years. And even in this situation that I'm in now, I was not trying to hear that. Because, man, was I not happy about it. But I don't know what's going to come from it. Something always does. If you let it, if you're open to it, if you're in tune with yourself, if you want to grow from it, you will grow. You have to be open to it, though. You have to allow it to come through. You have to be okay with the ebbs and flows. And this is where I'm at. In my accepting and embracing the journey, period. I am willing and going to allow whatever is going to come from it, because something will come from it, but I can't predict that. And that's the scary part too. You kind of got to sit through it and wait it out. You got to have the faith of everything happens for a reason. So thank you for listening to my rambling. It's been a minute since I recorded an episode, so I felt a little all over the place, but that's okay. I'm back, and so we will get better. Maybe it's supposed to be messy because it's the end of the year and I'm reflecting on it, and it sure was messy. There's always gonna be some mess. Ooh, reflection questions. What do I want to ask y'all? I want you to list and think about 3 things that you accomplished or achieved this year, big or small. Really don't matter. Achievements are achievements. So 3 things you achieved this year, and then what's one hurdle or obstacle or challenge that you had this year, and how did you get through it? What came out of it? Obviously, if it happened this month, like myself, you don't have that answer, but maybe try to think of something that happened earlier in the year where, it's resolved at this point, you've moved past it, and what came out of it? What did you learn? What happened? How do you see it now? How did you see it then? And think about that. Thank you guys so much for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you are watching this on YouTube, and download the episode, rate the episode, give it a thumbs up. We are available on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, all the things. It helps other people find it, share it. Anybody who needs to hear this, send it their way. And I hope you all have a blessed and intentional week.